The topic this morning is attunement through service. If you've been in and around Ananda even for a very, very short period, or if you've been here for years, you would have heard this word over and over and over again, which is attunement. It's the foundation of who we are. Yet it's also a very obscure word. It's a little vague. We're always trying to figure out, is this an attunement? Am I in attunement? Because we're not always very sure, are we? And so I've always tried to feel, how can I clarify for my own self? And then, of course, also perhaps to help others, what this word is, attunement. And one of the ways very recently that I have started to tune into this word was through this book study that we've been doing of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And in the Vibhuti Pad, the third pad of this book, Patanjali introduces a word which is now currently my favorite word in the world. And this word is samyam. Samyam. Never heard of it before, and it doesn't quite sound very exciting. But samyam describes the last three stages, last three limbs of Ashtanga, which is Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. So taken together, when Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi are seen as one reality, Patanjali gave this term Samyam. Swamiji then in the book describes and says Samyam is to be attuned to or to be identified with. And that's a nice shift for me to think, attunement equals identity. What am I identified with? Who do I identify myself with? Patanjali then goes and says, when samyam is achieved, then intuitive perception is awakened. Which means, when you're in samyam, then you will know. Before that, you won't know. Am I in attunement? If you're asking yourself the question, we're still not there because we don't yet know. He then goes on, and this is a fun, really fun aspect to be reading. And then he says, if you have samyam with the elephant, you will receive its strength. If you do samyam with the sun, you will understand the secrets of the entire solar system. If you have samyam with your Manipur chakra, you will know the entire constitution of your body. So you see, if you have samyam with certain things emerge. If we have samyam with the Guru, we have freedom. And that's what we're trying to achieve, isn't it? Identified with. When I was a boy, younger than I am now, I grew up in an army home, a military family, and in the army, everyone knows everyone. It's very much like this little community. But I was not known as Shurjo. I was known as General Jha's son. That was my identity. Shurjo could be an idiot, but General Jha's son, he deserves respect. Shurjo could be a nobody, but General Jha's son, you don't mess with him. When I would go in my father's car, because the soldiers didn't quite know who's in there, they'd all salute. They're not saluting me. Who are they saluting? General Jha. They identified me with my father. Shurjo deserved nothing, but when he was identified with his father, suddenly he was somebody. Suddenly he had great power. The universe can pick on Shurjo, but the universe cannot pick on a disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda. But you can't fool the universe. Putting photographs in your house doesn't make you a disciple. Samyam makes you a disciple. Completely identified with makes you a disciple. Until that time, the universe will pick on you because it still knows you're Shurjo. So that identity is very, very important. Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. Focus absorption, complete unity with in everything that we do. Now, how does this attunement going to be achieved? Of course, through our sadhanas, and we know the spiel. But one thing we don't really tune into that much or as often is seva. As a means to identify completely with. Not just as a means to, oh, mere guru hain, to chalo karo. And what does seva mean for us? Because Master lived a very unique life. You see, you have to tune into who your guru is. That's very important. If I want to know how I'm going to identify with Yogananda, I need to know everything about Yogananda. I can't just be clueless about who he is. He chose very specifically this particular version of a life because he knew that would be used as a tool for samyam. Now, if your guru was Neem Karoli Baba, then you do what he says. If your guru is Ananda Mohima, you do what she says. If your guru was sitting somewhere in the Himalayas only meditating in Maun, then you do what he does. Who's your guru? Paramhansa Yogananda. What did he do? He went out and he created. He went out and he manifested many different things. We think of Master and we're thinking of Kriya Yoga, but that's not how he started. He started with a school, with education. He went to America, he had to redefine so many aspects. He created a cafe. It was called the India Cafe, not the Ananda Cafe. The India Cafe. He had his own recipe there, famous, called the mushroom burger. It was meant for those people who were still meat eaters to have a meat substitute in those days. He was a creative guy. And so, when we're looking at our work, especially, we're from Ananda, Mumbai, and when we think about what do we need to do? Yes, we can spread Kriya Yoga, but how many of us will do that? And how many of us will actually practice Kriya Yoga? How many of us are looking for freedom? A small amount of people. Does that mean we cannot touch many, many more? And what would be those ways to touch them? When we are in Mumbai, Narayani and I ask ourselves, what all did Master do? And so I need to do that. So now we're supporting this orphanage more recently, and we're starting to build a school for them soon. And because we're like, all right, if I can tune into education the way my guru did, I can achieve samyam, because I cannot meditate 20 hours a day yet. And if I did meditate 20 hours a day, 18 hours would be pretty lousy. So I've got to find my other ways to achieve samyam. And so we started this cafe. We don't have mushroom burgers yet. Someday we might. And in the 3 months that we've started the cafe, we've had over 7,000 to 8,000 people visit. 7,000 to 8,000 people who've seen my guru's face. That makes me feel good. And we're now living in a community where 20 of us live together, meditate together, have breakfast together. People go off to work, then come back. We have lunch together. Because my guru wanted a community built. So when we're thinking of our seva, we need to really know the guru. What is it that I can do? What would he do? What has he done? Don't try to attune to Swami Pranabananda. Attune to Yogananda. Attune to your guru, whoever he may be. And try to achieve samyam. When you start doing that, you see, remember these words. When you make his work your work, he will make your work his work. Oh, you're furthering my work? Let me further yours, says the Guru. Let me further your life. Let me further your freedom.
Yesterday we were having tea with some friends here, and Bhavan shared one of his most favorite quotes. And I thought, that's a very interesting quote to start this satsang with. And probably you all have already heard this quote from Swami Sri Yukteswar, where he says, "So long as you are breathing the free air on earth, you are under obligation to render grateful service." And I was thinking, is this a law that applies only to us that are we living here on earth? Do the masters also serve? You know, the masters, I was thinking, they don't even breathe the air. They are in constant breathlessness state. I mean, they are in breathlessness. They are not obligated to serve. Yet they do. And we that are under that obligation, we don't. When I think about Babaji, who is running this entire creation, I mean, that guy doesn't need a body. In fact, he will travel perhaps faster without a body, and he was ready to let go of that body. And the moment he was about to do that, God didn't allow it. You have to keep your body, perhaps for eons, because that's going to be the way that you are going to serve this creation. When we look into the life of Lahiri Mahashaya, he meets Babaji, spends 7 days in Samadhi, and Babaji says, now go back to your wife, to your job, to your children for 25 more years. And in addition to your work, not in substitution of your work, in addition to your work, after you finish with your responsibilities of a father, of an accountant, or of helping, with homework to your kids, after your obligations are over, then at night you share Kriya Yoga. You initiate people into Kriya Yoga. When we think about Sri Yukteswar, I mean, he comes here just to train Yogananda. His mission is finished. Like, I'm done. I'm ready to merge back with oneness. But God said, that's not going to happen. We need you in Niranyaloka. People need your help. And you have to stay in this astral plane to continue to serve. You have not finished yet. And of course, when we see the life of Yogananda, we already know what the mission he had. So when I'm looking through the lives and through, the life of these self-realized masters, there is one common thread in all of them. There is sacrifice. Even in their freedom, they continue to sacrifice. They could bend the universe just like that to their will, and they don't. Even in their oneness with the divine, they don't take it for granted. They don't do just what they want to do. They do what they must for a cause, for God's mission. So whenever we think about our lives, where do we stand? What are we willing to sacrifice for the mission that we believe in? So many of us spend so much time and energy sacrificing ourselves, going to jobs and doing things that we don't like, yet we do. And then when it comes to the spiritual path, that we are constantly talking about how much we love it, how much the source of our nourishment is, yet we are not capable to give enough energy, time, commitment, and sacrifice that deserves. Just last night, this story came to mind from nowhere. Of course, I think Swamiji said, this could be a good story. I'm going to remind you about this episode. This was at the beginning of India when Swamiji moved here, 2005, 2006. One evening he decided to go for dinner, and I was part of that dinner, and I was sitting next to him. So there was a conversation going on, a small group of people. And at some point Swamiji looks at me and he asks, "What are you doing these days?" And I was like, ooh. And I mumbled something like, "Well, Swamiji, I'm reading this book, I'm meditating these many hours, I'm trying to listen this, trying to do that." I was trying to explain to him how much energy I was putting on my spiritual progress and my own attunement to what he was doing. And then he silently returned to his food and just he continued, and he didn't reply. That was it. The conversation was over. He didn't have anything to say. But that question stayed with me for days. Why did he ask me that? And why he never replied to me? I was just giving such an amazing answer. That's why I came to India, to deepen my own attunement, to grow spiritually. And eventually I realized that he wasn't really asking about my daily flow in India and what I was doing to grow spiritually. What he was really asking was, what are you serving with these days? In which area of the work are you helping here? Because unless I was part of what he was trying to build in India, I wouldn't be able to understand the grandiosity of this mission. I wouldn't be able to be part of the consciousness of the masters of this work. But more importantly, I wouldn't be able to receive what this work has to offer unless that you are part of it. And this is a question that I would like to ask each one of you. What are you doing these days? What are you helping with? What areas of the work are you supporting? And I'm not talking about coming for just 1 hour and doing something that you are good at it, or something that, inspires you. It has nothing to do with that. What needs to be done? And am I willing to commit for eons if God decides so? And eventually, as disciples, those are very important questions that will be asked to us, to the Guru. Are you willing to help me? And in the same way that the masters are supporting and are part of God's creation, we have our opportunity, our chance to be part of Master's mission. And you need to find, where do you belong in that? play, because each one of us has a role to play. You need to identify where you want to serve, because unless we don't serve, we won't be able to receive what they have to offer us. And coming back to that chant, how shall I serve you? How shall I do that? Keep asking yourself. Keep asking the masters. I want to be a part of this mission. What are you doing these days?